Hola, Dumelang Molweni. How are all of you doing? Seriously, how are you all doing? Please do let us know in the chat. I think it's important that we check in. Welcome to this month's episode of the IAB Insights series. I am your host, Tshegofatso Phetlhe, and today we will be sharing, discussing, and debating purpose-driven marketing from all angles, as well as magnifying projects where authentic brands seek to solve big and small challenges in our communities and beyond. At IAB South Africa, we partner with IAB Global around the world on our IAB Good Works program to celebrate the good work our members are doing to empower their communities and beyond. You can see more on that on iabsa.net. And we have the Bookmarks Pixel for Purpose Award that benchmarks digital excellence for work that excels in making a significant positive impact. Our guests today are Marnus Kruger, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Think Wifi, Camilla, Clerke, Executive Creative Director at Ogilvy, Cape Town, and finally from Mondelez, we have Nadia Mohammed, Marketing Director, and Laura Soderski, who is the Category Lead for Chocolate, both servicing the Sub-Saharan Africa arm of the business. Welcome to all of our panelists. We look forward to engaging with y'all on all the good work that works. And this episode is brought to you by our Insight Series partners, Everlytic, Gumtree, and Biz Community. The 2021 IAB Insight Series is also approved for 2 CPD points at CMSA level under Marketing by the Marketing Association of South Africa. But before we get into it, some house rules. Reminder that there will be some polls that pop up intermittently. It's simply a way of us interacting with y'all from afar and to know that you're still with us. In fact, let's actually try one now. So we want to get your view on whether you think brands have a role to play in uplifting communities and enabling positive social change. Is it A, yes, absolutely, if done authentically and aligned with the brand strategy, or no, I don't think that brands have a role to play in this space? It would be interesting to gauge this now and even after all our speakers have shared all of the insights. So I'll give y'all a minute to do that. 100%, okay. Yes, absolutely, if done right. Okay, I hope our speakers uphold that answer. Just another one is that our Q&A option is down here. So do jump in with your questions after every single session. I will be addressing them at the end of our last speaker. And do engage with us at IAB SA on Twitter and the hashtag IAB Insights. And a feedback survey will also be shared at the end of the show, just so we can gauge y'all's interest on the webinar. So do fill it out when you get the chance. Right, let's get started. Our keynote speaker today is Marnus Kruger from Think Wifi. As the Chief Operating Officer and an ICT professional with over 20 years experience in the technology sector, Marnus has a passion for using technology to uplift people by closing the digital divide. His aim has been to provide customers with a comprehensive, brand-safe, purpose-based advertising platform while delivering digital equality in underserved communities across South Africa. Marnus, welcome. How are you?
Good morning, Tshegofatso. Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're doing well down in Cape Town. Looking forward to an exciting event.
No problem. I will let you take the stage.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Marnus. I'm the co-founder and Chief Operating Officer for Think Wifi. Think Wifi is a purpose-based company. We strive to close the digital divide in communities utilizing Wi-Fi. But we're utilizing advertising to create sustainability around the Wi-Fi network. But as a purpose-based company, we look to uplift communities and we look to improve the lives of ordinary South Africans across South Africa. So let me get started. I'll play the first video for us.
Uplifting in the Northern Cape will get access to free and fast Wi-Fi for the first time.
People in this area will take advantage of this free Wi-Fi that they will be getting from today.
Now, unfettered, speedy, reliable internet access and affordable access to that is still a luxury for many South Africans. But in one part of the country that's set to change, this time for the residents of the Cape Flats.
Data costs are high in South Africa, making it a challenge to stay connected. But some of Cape Town's most vulnerable communities will now have free internet access. A move it's hoping will uplift many who are unemployed or caught in a web of crime and gangsterism.
It's Christine High School, as you can see. This Wi-Fi helps me a lot with my school researches when I have homework and WhatsApp.
First of all, I think I want to look at why we push for a library. The problem here is that learning or reading and writing is a problem in this particular school. There can be many reasons that attribute to that, but we also thought if you have a place like this, a library, where you expose learners to it, it might assist in really reducing the problem of literacy in the area.
This community is a typical community in South Africa where work is scarce, financial resources are not there. So having free internet available to them at no cost will give them access to all the tools, to educational tools. They can go onto YouTube, they can learn things. They could go really learn anything they want to. So if they read about a subject in this library, they can then take it further and they can read about it online. So they could really build that vision and that dream of what they can become. So purpose-based advertising is not a new concept. Jim Stingel coined the phrase back in 2008 by saying purpose-based advertising is defining what a company does beyond making money and how it can make its customers' lives better. And today this is more and more relevant. We've got in South Africa, we've got a massive digital divide. People cannot access good, fast internet, access digital services, access digital content, educational content on a regular basis. The cost of data in this country is still prohibitive to having a good and equitable access to the internet. The economic conditions of COVID has heavily impacted this country. We're sitting on 32% unemployment, and again, people that are unemployed, that have low income, battle to get access to the internet in an affordable manner. And then, lack of infrastructure and services in communities is a tremendous challenge for us in South Africa. There is very little investment in terms of infrastructure, fiber, wireless services, and that again prevents or presents us with a challenge in getting people connectivity online. Now, of course, during COVID, we've also seen a big change in the way people access the internet. People have been accessing internet more and more and more, but now from different places. I mean, many companies now, their primary place of work is now their homes. So people used to access internet from the offices in a certain way. Now they access internet from their homes or from libraries in some cases, or coffee shops across the country. But looking back at some of the partners that we've worked with that shares the vision, that wants to connect and close a digital divide, one of them is AFBOB. And AFBOB has been a very good partner with us. They've worked on a big project for us in various townships, especially in Gauteng and Cape Town, but also they've shared the vision that we have is to close that digital divide.
In April 2021, AFBOB partnered with Think Wi-Fi to help bridge the digital divide by using the Think Zone platform to connect Mzansi for free. The campaign includes national Wi-Fi coverage and 20 solar-powered streetlights, 10 in Gauteng, including Diepsloot, Soweto, Tembisa, and Soshanguve, and 10 in the Western Cape, including Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Mfuleni, and Kraaifontein. Affectionately known as lollipops, given their distinctive shape, these lights identify areas where free Wi-Fi is available for township residents. Through this powerful partnership, AFBOB and Think Wi-Fi make learning, living, playing, exploring, and connecting possible by bringing the world to the townships and taking Kasi culture to the world.
So to date, we've installed 104 lollipops nationwide and 270 access points. Each lollipop is solar powered and provides light for the local community, and the access point provides connectivity to the internet.
This Wi-Fi starts a lot in terms of our children's homework. Normally, when kids come to school with their homework, we come straight and download it from here. Instead of data, it saves us a lot.
By enabling free Wi-Fi, AVBOB is empowering communities to participate in the digital revolution. And at the end of the day, with their internet requirements for work, school, and relaxation met, learners can learn, students can study, friends can share, families can relax, and communities can sleep soundly under the secure glow of the solar lollipops.
We'd like to thank AVBOB for doing this for us, because most of the times we used to buy data for our kids, but now the kids, they know where to go.
AVBOB and Think Wi-Fi, connecting Wonkumuntu, connecting the AVBOB family. AVBOB, we're here for you.
So we as a company, we believe in the following statement. Brands must first think of their customers as people, not as data sets, and make empathy the future of experience. And that is true for your customers. They want brands to care about them, to provide real value to them and their community, not just sell a product. And in turn, customers are more likely to support a brand that cares. According to a 2021 study by Deloitte, 42% of millennials prefer to buy from companies associated with a social cause. In 2012, Edelman's Good Purpose study found that 72% of customers would recommend a brand that supports a good cause over one that doesn't. And that is a 39% increase in just 4 years. Brands that are purpose-based are more likely to have an emotional connection with their customers. And I think that is extremely true. We've certainly found that case in what we do, where people really have that connection and they recognize the connection of brands that care, and they support those brands that care. But purpose-based marketing or purpose-based advertising is something that everybody can talk about, but we need to measure what the real effects are. So in terms of our case, we're following the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and we've earmarked 5 goals that we can contribute to. Now, on the one, no poverty, we've calculated that on average, we save families 400 rands a month. So having access to free Wi-Fi takes away the burden of having to buy data, and in most cases, expensive mobile data. So that again helps to uplift and helps to encourage families to spend money on education or on medicine or on food. We also look at quality education and how brands can interact to help provide quality educations. We've deployed various networks across certain schools, and we've digitized certain learning materials. Now, these children can have access to free internet and digital content. And again, that was enabled by various brands. When we look at decent work and economic growth, small fast food outlets are now successful franchises, and spazas are flourishing in the harshest economic times. And then digital equality is close to our heart, where millions of people living below the poverty line can get access to the same opportunities as people with a decent internet. And then as part of a product stable, we roll out solar lights, and these solar lights helps communities to increase safety, personal safety, and help businesses to operate longer. So in summary, being a purpose-based brand or supporting a social cause should no longer be neglected. And to remain relevant in the minds of customers or consumers, it is time to embrace purpose-driven marketing and invest in those communities. I thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Marnus. I love what you said about how empathy needs to be the future of experience, because not only does it include the customer more intimately, but the brand too. So we can only imagine what that relationship will do. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
We will see you in the Q&A later. To the audience, please do enter your questions in the chat below for Marnus and any of our speakers after this, and we'll be sure to put them to him later on. Our next speaker is Camilla Clerke, Executive Creative Director at Ogilvy, Cape Town. Phew, where do we start with Camilla? As a widely respected individual in the industry with the depth of marketing experience, it is an honor to have her here with us. She has won several local and international awards for her innovative campaigns at Cannes Lions, Lurie's, Bookmarks, Webby's, DNAD, FWA, and One Show. She has a seat on both the IAB Agency Council and the Creative Circle Council, and in 2020 was named among Creative Pool's top 100 creative industry influencers. Camilla believes in working to distill a human insight to solve business problems. Ogilvy Cape Town is also the 2020 winner of the Bookmarks Pixel for Purpose Award, and Camilla will be sharing some of that work with us. Camilla, how are you?
Hey, lovely to be here. I have to say, I'm looking forward to a time where we can all do it in person. Yeah,
right?
It's getting a bit old, hey? Trying to work out how to share screen at the same time as volume and not skip the slide too quickly, and you know how it goes.
Hey, even the muting and the unmuting. So I get you.
Difficult, but thanks for having me.
Thank you for being with us. So take it away.
Okay, cool. You know, this is a topic that I hold very close to my heart. So that's why I'm excited to be here discussing it with you guys today, and quite keen to hear your point of view and your questions afterwards. But, you know, before I jump straight into a bit of work, I'm going to go back in time. 2017, it was pre-pandemic. Actually, we didn't even know that a pandemic was on our horizons, but it was a very exciting year for me because I had the honor of heading to the Cannes Lions Advertising Awards, where I was judging the mobile category, which was obviously a huge event in my life, something that any creative wants to get into. But that year was particularly exciting because of the work, and there are two pieces that did incredibly well. And, you know, I probably don't even need to introduce them because they have become very synonymous with purpose-driven work. But the first was Fearless Girl. And this piece on the left here, it's a bronze statue of a little girl. She's standing tall, proud, and very fearless, right in front of the charging bull on Wall Street. And I mean, this took everyone by huge surprise. No one saw it coming, but it was a huge signifier at the time for female empowerment and how it really is time to stand up for equality. And the next piece, and this was, you know, one that took all of us by surprise. It's called Meet Graham, and Graham is this unusually lifelike figure, actually constructed out of these sort of interesting materials, even including human hair. But it depicts what a human should look like if they were to withstand road accidents going forward. It's a piece done in Australia. And these two pieces everyone was talking about. And I think, you know, what came up a lot is that everyone, and, you know, especially myself at this point, started to realize the power of purpose-driven work and what it can actually do to drive society forward. And, you know, then I was there for a week. And at that point, you know, as I say, everyone was discussing the work. A guy sauntered up to me with a huge glass of rosé in his hand. And he said, "Aren't you guys in South Africa just so lucky? Because you've got so many problems." And obviously what he was referring to is the fact that we can really use creativity to solve a lot of these problems. And it really made me wonder, you know, why aren't we? What is stopping us? And this is how the lay of the land has worked for the last while. we've got NGOs who have always tended to be the ones who do good in this country. But unfortunately, they've got tiny budgets and they're taking on these huge country issues. And then we've got big brands with a huge amount of backing and budget who are using it to sell their products and obviously bolster the economy. But I guess the question is, what does using creativity to change behavior do to the bottom line? So what if all of our big brands did align to causes and actually made real change in this country? And would that actually compromise their revenue? And the first place to go is the stats. So a number of surveys were done globally in first world countries, third world countries, as I say, all over the world. And it was all summarized in one very neat, easy to read article on Forbes. But, this is what it says. So 66% of consumers will switch to a new product from a purpose-driven company. So, I mean, that's a big number. And even more so, 91% when millennials are polled. And this is obviously the future. 80% will be loyal to businesses that do good. And we know how unbelievably hard it is at the moment in marketing to gain consumers' loyalty. 73% will actually stand up publicly for a brand if they are purpose-driven. And, that's not just in the real world, but on social media as well, where we really need to hear from consumers who support brands. And 2 out of 3 people will pay a premium for a brand committed to making positive social impact. And again, I must stress, this isn't just in first world countries. This is here in South Africa. 2 out of 3 South Africans will pay a little bit extra if they believe in what the company is backing. And this all culminates in 175% value growth for brands perceived to have a positive impact. And I mean, that's pretty big. But, being a cynical creative, one can't just rely on sort of articles presented online. So I wanted to hear from a real audience. So this happened also before the pandemic, but I happened to find myself in this incredibly large focus group. I was working on just sourcing some data in the real world for one of my brands. But I happen to have many Black women between the ages of 18 and 30. And whilst we were going through a bunch of questions, I couldn't help but ask, what is your favorite brand? And do you buy that brand? Because there is obviously a difference. Sometimes we can't always necessarily afford the brands that we really back from a marketing point of view. And I have to say about 98% of these women came back with the same answer, and that is Dove. So Dove is their absolute favorite brand because they empower women. And when asking if they bought the product, they said certainly, because they are changing and redefining the way we think of beauty. So this is a piece that Dove did recently, probably was in the last couple of months over the pandemic. When they noticed how much sort of harm selfies and social media were causing young girls. And it's just a platform that they've persisted with and continue to win with. Cool. So, I mean, if the numbers are suggesting it's win-win and the audience are truly resonating with brands that are aligning with causes and trying to drive society forward, surely it's become more than just something a brand can do, but they actually have a responsibility to do it. And, you know, I haven't been part of Ogilvy for too long now. It's only been a couple of months, but there is one brand that I work on a consistent basis that are doing it and have been doing it now for a number of years. And this is Carling Black Label and their No Excuse platform. So they began their No Excuse for Women Abuse campaign or platform back in 2017. And what I truly admire is that they've completely stuck with it. You know, they've actually embedded it into their brand culture. And, you know, more than that, they're investing in real ways to help men become what they call champion men. So actually investing in nonprofit organizations who go out there and teach men real values and how to behave. And yeah, off of that have come a number of wonderful, moving campaigns. But as I say, it becomes far more than marketing. It's brand values. And I'm going to play two of these campaigns. This is the first one that ended up winning a huge award, I think the Cannes Grand Prix, a couple of years ago. And then the next is a piece that we did during the pandemic.
Violence against women and children in South Africa.
Heard about the shocking story of this young woman
following some horrific incident
where the high level of violence against women is
rape and domestic violence.
One was against Kaiser Chiefs, so I'm turning on the star here.
We are acutely aware of the link between men who abuse alcohol .
Cool. And this next one, it was done on a far smaller scale, but it was done during the time where we all had to go into lockdown, and men and women were sort of forced into homes to sort of live just together. And there was obviously a huge amount of concern over this period. People were losing jobs, worried about money. You know, pandemic completely sort of unraveled everyone's lives, and people were still drinking at home, and this caused such a spike in gender-based violence. It was unbearable, and this was another way that the No Excuse platform stepped in to try and turn men into champion men and do the right thing.
Marriage is a contract between two people who vow in front of friends and family to love and protect each other. But when South Africa locked down, forcing men and women indoors, this contract was broken and gender-based violence surged by 500%. Carling Black Label, who stand firm that there is never an excuse for women abuse, needed men to stop, rethink and recommit to never repeating these violent actions again. Introducing #NoExcuse, Renew All, a call for all men to renew their vows to their partners in front of South Africa, committing to end violence. For every vow made, we gave men a symbol of their commitment, a ring to wear on the hand they use to drink their beer, and the weapon that could cause harm as a constant reminder of their renewed contract. We started by enlisting the help of SA football and rugby leagues and had male sporting heroes renewing their vows live for all to see across multiple platforms. At Men's Parliament 2020, we called on South Africa's leaders to recognize the crisis and unite against women abuse.
No excuse calls on men to take action.
With key influencers sharing vows of no abuse, we asked our audience to do the same. Slowly, men came forward, first on social media and when bars reopened in taverns across the country. Together with Father a Nation, our grassroots NGO committed to educating men, we offered free counseling for men determined to change. Renew All, because every man is responsible for ending gender-based violence.
And I think it's especially wonderful to sometimes just be walking through the shops and look down and actually see a guy sort of still wearing his ring as a constant reminder of how he should behave. So that's just two examples from one brand that has aligned with a cause, has brought it into its brand values, and is just going for it. And therefore it feels like, you know, there's almost no excuse for other brands not to do the same. So to finish off, you know, it's important to align with the cause, something that's authentic to the brand, that makes sense with the brand. And it doesn't have to be multiple causes, it can just be one, but something that is able to shift the dial. Change behavior, brands do have that kind of power. People listen to brands and really drive society forward. You know, 3 ways of doing that: find a cause that makes sense with the brand. If it's too distant or too far removed, then people won't go for it. Really embed it into the brand culture and values. So make sure it sits within the office space with all the internal staff. And lastly, don't make it a campaign. Stick with it. This is a platform that needs to become synonymous with the brand going forward. Clerke, thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Camilla. I think I was still thinking about your first slide when you spoke to the guy who said South Africa is lucky with all its problems. I think it's interesting because for us, like even with just the campaigns you showed, our problems are lucky in a brand and advertising sense, but they are hard. So to echo even what Brunella was saying in the chat of how like having the brave conversations, it's for brands to actually partner with you in having those, because that's the only way that you actually gain impact. So yeah, you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So to our audience, please do share any questions that you have for Camilla, especially after that moving work that she just shared with us. It will be great to discuss this a lot further. So our final speakers are from Mondelez, starting with Nadia Mohammed, who is the Marketing Director for Sub-Saharan Africa, and she is a seasoned and accomplished marketing and business leader whose experience spans across industries and global geographies. She has worked for global FMCGs, telecommunications, and financial services organizations such as Vodafone, Woolworths, Woolies, our love, AVI, and more recently being Chief Marketing Officer of Time Digital at Commonwealth Bank of Australia International Financial Services. Nadia has an extensive pedigree being a truly purpose-driven leader who is often regarded as one of South Africa's most innovative and forward-thinking brand custodians. She is joined by Lara Sudowski, who is the category lead for chocolate and Mondelez Sub-Saharan Africa, who is an accomplished, diversified, and results-driven marketing executive with the marketing career founded within financial service, using HR, psychology, and business administration studies to rapidly develop a breadth and width of experience. Having worked across markets such as Angola, Kenya, Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Mauritius, she then moved back into the local South Africa market and has worked on loved brands such as Oreo, Stimroll, Chappies, what did you know, Halls, and more. And she has had the privilege of managing many categories with Mondelez and currently leads up the most loved chocolate brand in South Africa, Cadbury. Nadia, hello, how are you?
Tshegofatso, thank you. Wow, you make us sound so well-rounded and pronounced.
You make it easy. You make it easy. Lara, are you ready to share? Are you ready to share some inside information?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us, and it's just inspiring to see the work shared by our previous two speakers, and I'm definitely feeling inspired today. So thank you for having us. I think we've all heard the saying, doing good makes good business sense. And right now, this couldn't be truer in today's environment. Brands really need to stand for something in order to be counted. We know we're living in an environment where we've got modern consumers that engage with brands that reflect their values. And they use the power of their wallet to support these organizations or brands. They want these brands that really don't just focus only on their bottom line, but that really do make a big difference to society at large. That's why Mondelez has gone on this journey of driving a purpose-led marketing approach. The approach we took, though, is it's not something that's nice to have. It shouldn't be a tick box exercise. It shouldn't be a desperate attempt to remain relevant, but rather it's the opportunity to really authentically connect with our audience and drive long-term impact and loyalty. It's a hard journey to go on. You really need to have genuine belief in what you're standing for, long-term commitment, passion, and it really has to be entrenched throughout your entire organization. So we went back to, what is the brand essence of Cadbury Dairy Milk? Where did it start? And when we go back in history many years ago, essentially it started with the intent of sharing generosity. It's all about that generous spirit. It's all about bringing people closer. And generosity essentially is an instinct that goes above and beyond. It is the selfless hope of genuinely improving another person's life. And with this in mind, thinking this is how our brand all started, we decided to change our positioning in 2019 and move to a purpose-led strategy. We used to have a positioning all around joy, and we decided, let's focus on generosity. But in order to show this generous spirit of both Cadbury and of South Africans, we needed a plight, we needed some cause that we could really get behind to display this. And we then came across a very sad statistic around the number of orphans and vulnerable children that we have in South Africa. In South Africa, there were over 2 million vulnerable and orphan children. And while there are the basic needs that these children obviously need, food, education, we also realize just the precious gift of childhood is taken away from them. How can we bring that back as a brand? And that's where we called on South Africans. And we said, donate your pre-loved books, toys, and games to these orphans, to these vulnerable children, just so they can get the precious gift of childhood back. And we started this with driving awareness. You'll see the visual in the bottom of the screen. We flew thousands of paper planes off of the famous Ponte building in Johannesburg, and it showed children playing and interacting, which started off very beautifully. However, if you the little girl picked up the notes, it then zoomed in and said, for millions of children, this is the only toy they will ever have. And this just really started our cause. We called on South Africans, and South Africans just heeded to this. We started what we called our pop-up store, our little generosity stores, and South Africans came and dropped their pre-loved toys, books, and games. And in 3 months, we had over 100,000 toys to donate. It was just an overwhelming response from how South Africans showed their generosity, that they wrote individual notes to these children just to share some love and inspiration. So with the success in 2019, we realized we need to continue this into 2020. But hello, COVID, who threw a spanner in our works, and we realized we could not donate pre-loved toys, books, or games because of health concerns. We couldn't get large gatherings of South Africans dropping off. So we changed our tactic and we launched what we called the Glass and a Half Project. And we had what was a pack with purpose. We took our current portfolio and we actually changed the packaging for a limited period. And essentially, if you bought this pack, you then helped contribute towards R1 million worth of educational toys, books to these children. We realized that at a time like this, especially with COVID, access to care workers that they usually get, access to school that was closed, was really more pertinent right now than just precious gift of playing. So we also wanted to put our educational spin on it. Once again, we managed to donate R1 million worth of these educational toys and books to these orphans. But we also went a step further. We know that stories help consumers or help children to imagine. It helps children to learn. It helps them to just have an escapism from their current reality and give them a little bit of hope. So we asked once again South Africans to share their story. We called on South Africans saying, share with us a story of hope that you have encountered, a story of how you overcome some challenge in your life, a story of how you grew to what you are today, maybe not starting off with a fortunate position. And once again, South Africans came to the party. We were able to curate audio ebooks where they were downloaded with short stories of inspiration and were either read to these children or they were sent to the care workers in order for them to download and share with these orphans and vulnerable children. So such a beautiful 2 years of different tactics, but allowed us to start the journey of our purpose-led marketing. And I think it was the gravitas that we got with these two campaigns and these two learnings that enabled us to now start our journey for our real purpose platform. It helped us to now start our journey of defining our real long-term social mission, which is not going to just be it's going to be purposeful. It's going to really ensure that we change lives and we make a true impact in society. And that has taken us to the point of where we are today, which Nadia will share the journey we are now embarking on.
Thank you, Lara. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity. And to Lara's point, we were on such a journey. We've taken such learnings from our past, and Camilla, an amazing presentation on how to take your learnings, how to apply them. And I think Carling Black Label is always an example that I use with my team because I think they've entrenched their social mission within the brand. And that's pretty much where we are from a Cadbury point of view. So growing from our master brand purpose around inspiring more Cadbury goodness in the world. We did that through reading. We did that through our toy store. And we looked at how do we further take this vehicle to support our mission. So if you just do a couple of clicks for me there, Alex, probably 3 clicks. I think the societal issue that we believed could affect real change against, I think, something that was important to our consumers, made sense to our brand, and where we could credibly drive action because we've had history. And I think the future of every nation, and we call it the fabric of the nation tension point, is really around how do you impact change? You either do it through impacting societal impacts on each other and human impacts on each other, through educational infrastructure, financial infrastructure, or health infrastructure. And we felt that the future of every nation, in our regard from an African continent perspective, is dependent on children. And particularly in South Africa, we're faced with a literacy crisis. So our view was, if 78% of grade 4 learners are not really reading for meaning, what it did do for us is spark an action and an impetus that really allowed us to launch the Cadbury Master Brand social platform that you can see there on screen, called Read to Succeed, because it's an opportunity where we think our brand has history, credibility, but has the most impact. And the filter that Cadbury Goodness, as a master brand known globally around the world to do good and be generous, as a filter across our entire brands and sub-brands or our basket, and creating this halo effect across all our brand communications was certainly the aim, and the single-minded aim. And ultimately, our aim across the board is to bring love for reading amongst South Africans and South Africa's next generation. I think what's imperative, though, is that the physical manifestation of Cadbury Goodness allows our Cadbury brand to play its unique contribution in society and ultimately wake people up to the power of generosity and bringing that consumer on board to work together with us to drive this change. And I think we believe that Read to Succeed will activate this purpose, and it will most likely provide a sustainable platform that drives the social change at scale, and it will allow the connection of people to be quite relevant to the brand and the core audience, particularly around this audience that I think Camilla mentioned, that's quite sought after, which is Generation Z, and the impact that purpose plays in their lives. If we click one more time to the next slide for me, please, Alex. I think what's really shocking before we go into the poll is that, the statistic around, how many kids are truly unable to read because they actually can't read in their own language. And I guess this is where I'd ask you a question, and you could possibly help us understand where South Africa is at the moment. What percentage of children's books published commercially in South Africa are in African languages? Can you give me a view? And hopefully we can give you a bit of an answer. I'm guessing we'll take a little bit of time to see your answers come through, but quite excited to see that. So 71% of you said 0 to 10%, 21% of you said between 11 and 20%, and then very few of you said either 21 to 31%. So I think I'm going to certainly aim to cross the divide and give you a view in my next slide there, Alex. And that's really that the sad statistic is that 2% is the true view and the true statistic. That's quite shocking in our opinion, of children's books that are commercially published in African language, that allows kids to actually take reading at a level that allows reading and stories to make sense and have meaning. So while literacy is an issue in South Africa, it's a complex one, right? The lack of access to children's books in African language has been highlighted as a contributing factor. And if we click once more, I think the experts that guide us and inspire us noted that inspiring a love for reading in children at a younger age, especially in their mother tongue, ultimately will move this needle. And it builds the foundation for improved literacy skills in the future. And I think we can all testament to having 11 different languages in just South Africa makes that a fairly complex challenge for, I think, our government and our educational system. So this is where we believe that for Cadbury, particularly Cadbury Dairy Milk, this means making more children's books in their home language accessible, and having the brand partner with NGOs such as Nali Bali, which I think you'll become familiar with as we go on this journey, because they're passionate about the cause around this, in particular, the educational cause, and they're passionate about reading, being able to move that needle. And Cadbury Dairy Milk has certainly set a goal to create and translate new stories for children in their home languages between now and 2023. And our aim is around 1,500 new stories. And that ultimately is why we believe there's a glass and a half in everyone. So we recently ignited the Read to Story, the Read to Succeed journey, apologies, and we launched this under the Cadbury Dairy Milk platform. And we launched it under the first platform, which is around In Your Own Words, that speaks to this notion of being able to launch books in our own mother tongues. We kicked off with an emotive piece of film, and I hope you'll appreciate it. We've certainly had such positive responses from our consumers that tells a powerful story of how small but meaningful acts of kindness and generosity creates a connection between people. And ultimately, I'm probably going to ask Alex for a bit of help here in playing the TVC before taking you through to our closing that will ultimately give you a view of what we believe the future might just look like and what our aim truly is. And if you can come on the journey with us. Alex, if you could click for me, I'd appreciate that.
Okay, baby. God, my Ben is going to come and take care of you now. Bye, baby. I love you.
Sabona mfana.
Sabona gogo.
Uma kahle uthi sabona gogo.
Sabona gogo.
Ubhekeni. Ngoba ubhaka i-TV awufundi. Qala futhi. I found a cricket.
A cricket.
Ngithe kuwe angifuni ukuphinde ukubona uphethe abonopopo.
Ho hang bakeng sa bothata ba gago. Ungakhathazeki.
Siyakhathalela nasi sonke.
Makazombona kusasa.
There's a glass in her heart.
There truly is a glass and a half in everyone. I saw we got cut off there, but ultimately I think it does take a village to raise a child, but it takes an even greater village. It takes a continent to educate a nation. And I think if we, in our own words, can help from a call to action perspective and call on South Africans to generally translate just a word to help co-author a library of really enchanting children's stories in African languages, I think it's the first step in possibly the 3 to 4 year journey with solid goals, solid deliverables that ultimately is going to move our nation from an education perspective and from a literacy perspective. So I'm calling on you, hopefully, our small little forum today, to join us on our journey and visit cadbury.co.za to translate your word. Because, you know, the experience that an emotive reward around being able to co-author a book certainly aligns to the greater cause and the higher order cause that we hope to affect, which is really allowing us to encourage reading, to improve literacy, and to move that dial from 2%. So that's all from us there, Tshegofatso. Back to you.
Thank you so much for that. That was spectacular. I think what I appreciate is how seamless that relationship between the social impact and the brand is. So thank you so much for that. We will now be having our Q&A. So I will invite our panelists back on. So please can Camilla, Marnus, please can you put on your cameras? And I will now actually be going through them. So audience members, please do put in your Q&As in the Q&A section here. I see the lovely interaction that is coming from our chat, from Ratiba to Tabani to Brunella to, I'm going to even our very own Camilla. So this is beautiful. Thank you so much, everyone. Cool, let me just go to our questions. Awesome. Marnus, the first question is for you. And the question goes, as brands are certainly having to do more to earn brand trust and advocacy in the market, what one main call to action would you advise your fellow industry colleagues at this to help companies at this time?
I think it is important to look after your consumers, look after your customers. Now, from all the great presentations we saw today, if you inspire your customers, you build up brand advocacy, you build up brand trust. And that is key behind all of this. The more we can inspire, the more we can drive literacy, the more we can drive causes, the more value customers will give back to you. And I think that is one of the key messages that I believe in.
Thank you for that. And our next question, I'll preface it with a comment before I ask Nadia and Lara, where Candace Goodman had said, round of applause to the Cadbury team. We really see the authenticity of your purpose and not just the marketing, which leads to the question from Thabani of how do you effectively measure brand purpose in delivering on the bottom line for the brand and for the business? So Lara and Nadia, you can choose who answers it.
Sure, Lara, should I take it? I think to be credible means you need to be able to measure the outcomes, right? I think, and Candace, if I'm not mistaken, we've had history in the mobile world, and Candace has been doing this for a really long time, driving mobility and how it impacts society. And I think Marnus was certainly a privilege to see what you're doing as well. I think we need to firstly ensure that we can become accountable and we can truly measure what we aim to apply. I think we need to demonstrate and we need to validate real impact. And that's why we need to aim to actually deliver against a goal over time. The brand resonance is important and the commitments are important and the brand's essence is important, to Camilla's point earlier on, because the only way you partner these two initiatives together, being purpose as well as brand essence and brand resonance, is if they actually make sense as a narrative and they can speak to one another, because then you're ultimately partnering strength on top of strength and you have the opportunity to have the right effect and the right impact. I think from a strategy point of view, you need to be flexible though, because very often we do things and we underestimate the opportunity to learn from our consumers and to learn from feedback. And we aren't necessarily flexible to adapt and to change to specific needs and to specific conditions. And I think that's ultimately, in my opinion, how you either are incredibly successful down this journey, or it's a journey that's quite inward looking and purely for the brand's benefit versus our consumers and society at large. So I really hope we won't become another, a pretty piece of creative, but actually we become an impactful change in society. I hope that answers Candace's question.
It definitely does. Thank you, Thabani, for that question. Then to Camilla, this is a question for you. You shared some really brave work today. Thank you. Compared to the international market, how does South Africa fare in this space, and are you seeing any changes?
So I think still globally, they're a little ahead of us. I think what we've definitely done well here is had CSIs, so a lot of corporate social initiatives that we have backed as brands. But I think what we're lacking is bringing it to the forefront. So into the marketing space where it's part of our brand values and it's something that we're speaking about as well and doesn't just sit in this sort of CSI bubble on the side. So yeah, to answer your question, I do think that overseas are a bit ahead. They obviously have astronomically huge budgets in comparison. I mean, just looking at the Cannes Awards this year, some agencies will enter 105. We wanted to, but we ended up entering 6 because, rands versus euros. But I think we all understand the job that needs to be done, and I can feel a lot of commitment coming from client side, which is very exciting to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. I think a lot of clients are also waking up to that purpose part. Last year was definitely the foundation for a lot of purpose-driven work. So yeah, thank you for that. Now to Laura, thank you for an insightful presentation on purpose-driven marketing. I know a lot of brands are trying to do great work like yourselves, but can you shed a bit of light around good washing as a trend that is prevalent in this space?
Yes, so for those who might not be familiar, according to the trend expert Dion Chang, good washing has become a term to look out for, and it's essentially the perception that a brand is doing good when in reality it actually isn't. And in order to not get tainted with that brush, which really, as we all know, will do major damage to your brand, a purpose-led marketing approach needs to focus on measurable outcomes, affecting real impact. Brands really need to hold themselves accountable to meeting their commitments and be fluid enough to adapt in its approach as demanded by the environment in which we operate in.
Thank you. But also, I think how good washing also stops is the fact that we know that, especially with young people, call-out culture is there. So in its own sense, that's happening too. So thank you for that one. And this is to Marnus from Ratiba. And she says, are you planning to put Wi-Fi across schools in the country? I think this will definitely go a long way in changing the education sector in rural areas.
Thank you for the question. We really want to. It is, there's a vast number of schools. We've started with 18 schools now. We're trying to grow that as fast and rapidly as we can. It will take time. We really want to. We really need some support in getting that done. But we're working with various government agencies and NGOs and different companies around making that a reality. So we will keep chugging away and getting schools and kids connected.
And then lastly, this is from Candace Goodman for you, Marnus. What is in it for AVBOB to sponsor the Think Wi-Fi project?
So I think firstly, AVBOB received recognition, as you saw from the video, from the communities. The communities recognized that the brand is there, and they recognized that they were supporting the community. So that's the one thing, is that recognition. The second thing is through our digital and capture portals. The AVBOB did and still are presenting some of their products and some of their services, which are specifically for the market segments. So they could have the opportunity to promote the product, but also have the opportunity to receive that or generate that trust and that exposure to the communities.
Thank you for that. And I will actually wrap it there. So thank you so much to all our panelists for coming through. Thank you for showing us and giving us a view into the purpose-driven work and actually how we can all get to creating such campaigns and pieces of marketing. To our IAB Insights partners, Everlytic, Gumtree, and Biz Community, thanks again for helping in making today possible. To our production team, as always, stellar work. And to all of you joining us from your home, your couch, your car, and the bathtub, on a run, on a walk, we see you. We appreciate you for coming through. See you all on our next episode on the 22nd of July, where we tackle integrating offline and online digital. Have a beautiful rest of the week and take care and be kind. Bye.